Right, fam. I'm just going to talk on Redis on Rails. I work at a company called Lagoa, and hiring, by the way. So what we do, I just want to say quickly, is that we basically do Google Docs meets 3D in the browser. So no plugins, and that's pretty cool. So if any of you guys are interested, guys or girls are interested in some really cutting edge WebGL stuff, come see me afterwards. So, what is Redis? I mean, how many of you have used Redis before? Probably most of you. So I'm going to try to get all of you to raise your hands up by tomorrow. So Redis, pretty straightforward. It's a database, right? Well, it's true, but it's a bit more than Redis. That's right. It's a bit more than just a regular database. So maybe I'll just give a few basics before I really jump in. My goal here isn't to really explain Redis or really do a deep dive into how it works, but really just to show you how Redis can solve problems that you have in early stages, and how it can really grow with you and solve a lot of creative problems if you really think creatively about how it can help you. So speed-wise, yeah, it's fast. Various benchmarks put it slower or slightly slower, slightly faster than Memcache. It's really fast. Speed is never going to be something that you need to worry about with Redis. It's going to be fast, and if it's not, you're probably watching too many keys or something. So persistence, yeah, it's in memory. It's super stable. The only time we've ever had it go down is when we were either ran out of memory or ran out of disk space. So it keeps its store in memory, and then it writes to disk, usually snapshotting, or an append-only file. So the guts, yeah, it's written in C, single-threaded, just basic stuff. Installation, incredibly easy. On your Mac, install Redis, app install Redis server. That's about it. Who uses it? Tons of companies, more than I really want to put on the slide. Don't think that you're going to be really venturing into the deep end of cutting-edge software. It's tried and true. So finally, let's get to something we're all here to talk about: Ruby. Ruby. So getting started, just simple. Throw a little something in your gem file, and you're good to go. But of course, don't leave home without your C bindings. Hi Redis does that for us pretty easily. So one other thing that I found to be pretty useful in most applications is working with a connection pool. So if you're going to do any type of threading, you're probably going to want a few connections going. And some nice person out there in GitHub land packaged that all up nicely in this connection pool gem that I quite like. It's also super easy to get set up. The one caveat to watch out for if you're going to be working with connection pool is if you ever want to do something and be certain about the execution of events of your commands, then you'll want to what you're going to want to do is select one connection and work with that one connection in a thread. That's just the one thing to watch out for. So what can you use it for? Pretty simple, caching. It just works, really. Gives you all the basic types of caching that you're going to want in most of your Rails apps. Just configure it in your application IV file, and you're good to go. This isn't a Rails tutorial, so I'm not going to talk too much about caching, but it just works. So why might you use Redis over something like Memcache? It's got built-in expiring, but also it supports more than just strings. You can store objects, you can store lists, you can store sets, sorted sets, hashes, and of course strings. You can really get creative in the types of things that you want to store. You don't really have to limit yourself. So you can, it can be great to store state among different applications and things like that. Moving on, job queues, right? If you're just starting out, why not just throw another thing at Redis, right? You already got it for caching. Why not do job queues? And a few other gems out there have already wrapping this functionality for you. Rescue and Sidekick both use Redis under the covers. What was I going to say about this? Yeah. So it's a best practice. Starting out. So once you really get, once you've already decided to just go with Redis for your caching, it makes a lot of other decisions really easy. Well, just throw some delayed jobs in there. Start sending email through background workers. Don't do that stuff in line. Really crucial stuff that you're going to really want in early scaling days. Just throw it at Redis. It can handle it. Why you use Redis? Well, it really does support lists. It basically does support queues if you just use lists. There's push and pop, just like you'd expect from any queue library. So, Redis is really built to do these things. So, as you can see, Redis really, it's more than just a database. It really is, a networked, framework for all sorts of different data structures that you might want to work with in a networked environment. So that's really nice to have. What else? Pub sub. So maybe you want to have some Node in experiment with Node. You want to have some real-time updates. You want to introduce some chat to your website. Any sort of live functionality that you might want to get going on your site. Rails doesn't really support that, so you might need to venture outside. And what better thing to use than some more Redis? Just throw that thing at it too. So with Redis, built-in pub sub makes it super easy. There's also libraries, of course, for all your different favorite languages. Not only just for real-time events on your website, but maybe just sort of messaging between your different applications. It really makes a great messaging service. Of course, there's RabbitMQ and other message queue services. But you already got Redis there. Why not just throw yet another thing at it and start using it for pub sub? So this is just a simple little example where I do that. After create hook, and then you subscribe on your Node server, and you can start reacting to messages in real time. What else did I want to say about that? Yeah, so whatever your technology choice, pub sub is definitely something you're going to want to have in a growing application. So why might you use Redis for that? As I said, fast, stable. We've never had it go down when it wasn't our fault, and speed's never been a problem. What about as your primary DB? You could also use Redis for that. I don't have any experience with that, so maybe if that's your thing, you could do that. But I don't really see it as a replacement for a traditional SQL database. I think it really maybe they each have their place, and you want to use the strengths of each for your application. So you want to be holding your more traditional relational data in your traditional SQL database. But then, you're using Redis for everything else. Such as, you might want to, it really works great for, any sort of view count service with the built-in increment function. You can, get tons of mileage out of that instead of, touching your SQL database all day. Metrics, again, just increment those metrics. With some of the many list functions built into Redis, you can do unions, so you can really kind of create these structures where who's online out of a user's friends. You just use a union operation, and that makes that pretty easy. So maybe some more out there applications of Redis might be to maintain a resource lock between your different services. So this is just a little example I cooked up here, where I'm using that, where I really want to make sure that I'm executing things in a specific order. So I'm using that connection pool with function, and then here I really want to check to make sure really want to set this key, so this set nx is set if not existing. So what we're trying to do is basically obtain a lock on a resource so that a service can use it or restrict access to it without others trying to butt in there. So, Redis, is great for that. So then, when you're done using it, you just delete the key, and other services can take hold of that resource for you. So, things like networked semaphores, it's sort of one of the many creative uses you can come up with when you're using Redis.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you know the gem that can abstract that away?
Do I know? I don't. No. It's probably something that'd be great for someone to use. But
it's just I hate to write all of that and I need to.
Yeah. I mean, this is just the lock acquisition, and then you want to be able to release it.
Right.
Yeah. Also, since you're using the global variable for your Redis,
Yeah.
is it something that is
Well, so getting back to so that's sort of the way I set it up in when I set up a connection pool. That's where I sort of established. I just set that up in an initializer file in Rails so that I can use that all over the place. Instead of, it just allows you to not have to wait for, you don't have to establish a Redis connection inline. You're able to use it, it's a persistent connection throughout all of your requests. Just like Rails does under the covers with your SQL database. Sort of just, emulates the same thing Rails does natively. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a fast talker, so that's maybe all I had to say. I really think what I really wanted to just convince you of is that Redis doesn't have to be a choice that you have to make against other services. You can, if you for some reason outgrow some functionality that Redis offers you, you can of course switch to another service. It's not going to lock you in, but what it provides you is just a great service that's there for you for whatever you need it for, and you can really get creative with your different uses of it. Just basically because it has so much built-in functionality. There really doesn't exist another package out there that really just gives you so much so simply, in my experience.
Can you talk about expiration a bit?
Sure. I guess I don't really have a slide for that. Oh, so the caching, you just whenever you set a value in Redis. So there are there are different types of objects that you can set in Redis, but all of them support expiring. So it will automatically expire a resource for you based on a period of time. So what you can do is you just pass in seconds. So maybe you pass in a week of seconds into it, you set that value, and it'll just take care of expiring that for you. So then you can, which works perfectly with Rails' built-in cache functionality. You just set it, expires in a week, Rails uses a pass-through cache to just set that if non-existent. So we use that a lot.
Related to that, so how do you control the size of that cache?
In Rails, I don't believe there is actually a way to...
No, but in Redis.
In Redis?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
in memcache you can sort of control the sort of
size. So there is a config in the Redis configs. So you would just... I can't remember, I think it's -f for file or something like that when you're starting up Redis. You just pass in a config file and you can limit the size of your Redis database.
Right. So if you're using that as a cache, but also using it for background jobs, and you have a limited size, is there any concern in terms of stepping over in terms of losing background jobs because you've sort of ran out of size?
Yeah, there could be. So one thing you're going to want to do that I didn't mention is you're probably going to want to use Redis's namespacing.
Right. Okay.
So unlike a traditional like SQL database where you have tables, you can namespace in Redis.
And so those namespacing, you can configure the size of your namespace?
Yes, I believe you can. Okay. Yeah, you can do that independently so that they're not going to bounce all over each other. Okay. So the other thing, I guess, maybe one other caveat with Redis is that it doesn't yet support clustering. There are a few tools that will do it for you, so that you can have that functionality. But natively, Redis doesn't yet support that. Although I don't believe that Memcache supports it natively either, so it's not really competition there. But it's been coming for a little while, or so they say. So I guess maybe people maybe given up waiting and built their own tools on top of Redis. But that's just another caveat to maybe be aware of. But in a network environment, that may not be necessary. You just throw it on a big machine, and one Redis instance is really maybe all you're going to need. Maybe I'll show you guys. I don't really have any other slides, but I can show you a quick example of our application, which uses Redis to do for its primary functionality. You can sort of see how fast you can really get with Redis. So this is Lagoa.com, and this is a 3D scene that I'm manipulating here. So as you see, these are two different tabs. One of them I'm signed in anonymous mode. So these are two different users. I think just two versions of myself. They have two different profile pictures. We're not constrained screen optimized yet, fluid. But basically these operations are going up to the network and back down, and we're able to interact seamlessly in real time. So this works as well locally as you would, in different environments. So what we're really using here is Redis behind the scenes to synchronize those commands between these two views, and then also save those commands. Each movement is actually recorded as a command, and we use Redis for that too. So I wish
you're using pub sub, like Redis for pub sub.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is the rendering that we do in real time.
Have you ever used for frontend? Is that Flash?
No, this is WebGL. Nice. This is 100% native HTML in the browser.
Does it work in IE6?
We don't even work in IE10 right now. Apparently,
I still have IE3.
Sorry?
I still have IE3 actually.
I think I care more about that.
Yeah, we don't even support IE now. Next version of IE will support WebGL, and that's the one that yes, we finally will support. But right now, the best experience that you're going to obtain is on Chrome or Firefox, across platform.
So since you guys are using that to sync between two views or multiple users and so on, how is it from an operational point of view? Like, you probably have a couple of guys taking care of operations, or maybe not, but when it goes down, like, how fast does it come up from the, like, let's say you have to reboot the cluster or whatever for some reason, how fast is it, or does it recover from this? Because you said it's persistent, right?
Oh, yes, so how fast does it recover from this?
Well, you don't have to be, but those kind of situations, let's say you have to expire a certain set of keys or so on. Is it doable, or?
Well, you can key expiration just works in real time. You don't have to take it down to do anything like that. You can just delete a whole set of keys. It even works with you can even use like star operators in your commands.
Okay.
So you can delete a whole range of keys that match a certain sort of regular expression a little bit. Yeah, you can do that all without taking it down. As for boot up, I'm not actually sure about how that performs. I don't have any direct experience with that, unfortunately. But probably pretty fast. Probably pretty fast. Perhaps I've never seen it slow to start up. So perhaps what it's doing is it's loading it, and then if you ask for anything that doesn't have it, it'll reach into its store, pick it out. Maybe I'm just inventing things.
No, it's just,
Purely
I'm
guessing.
looking
Just-
also, I don't have to ask this question.
Yeah, check it out. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. Huh. Any other questions? All right, well, any of you guys or girls want jobs, come see me afterwards. Otherwise, you have people in the 3 industry. We're online.